when young Muslim girls ask me what it's like, I'd like to say there's nothing to worry about, that they would face the same challenges as their non-Muslim friends and colleagues. But Madam Chair, in truth, I can't say that because in my short time in Parliament, that's not my experience. So let me read out a few examples. One person, for example, wrote to me, and I quote, "Sultana, you and your Muslim mob are a real danger to humanity." Another wrote, "I'm a cancer everywhere I go, and soon," they said, "Europe will vomit you out." A third called me a terrorist sympathizer and scum of the earth, and that's sanitized of their unparliamentary language. I have discovered that to be a Muslim woman, to be outspoken, and to be left-wing is to be subject to this barrage of racism and hate. It's to be treated by some as if I were an enemy of the country that I was born in, as if I don't belong. It was summed up by these words in a handwritten letter, and I quote, "If you can't stand the racism, perhaps you'd be happier going back to your country of origin, foreigner." Chair, it's worse when I speak up for migrants' rights in support of the Palestinian people or criticise Tony Blair for the war on Afghanistan. One abusive letter said, and I quote, "Our cities are full of Muslims. Send them to Pakistan." Another suggested that I must support the Taliban, all because I'm Muslim and against endless war. Madam Chair, this Islamophobia doesn't come from a vacuum. It's not natural or ingrained. It's taught from the very top. These fires are fanned by people in positions of power and privilege. When a far-right online account targeted me with racist abuse, suggesting that Muslims were an invading army, a Conservative MP replied, not calling them out for their racism, by insulting me instead. When our England football stars were subjected to vile racism, in the chamber I highlighted that the Prime Minister had fanned those flames, ridiculing Muslims and black people. And at the dispatch box, the Minister told me to watch my tone. But Madam Chair, while none of this is nice, I know that the worst effects of Islamophobia and racism are not just in abusive language, it's in policies and political decisions. This Saturday marks the 20th anniversary of 9/11. That horrific act of mass murder cast a long shadow. The war on terror, launched by George Bush and Tony Blair in its wake, set a narrative that too many readily embraced. Muslims, wherever we are, were portrayed as a security threat in need of discipline and suppression. Abroad, this was the background to disastrous wars in the Middle East, where false links were drawn between Iraq and the 9/11 attacks, providing false legitimacy to a war that had more to do with oil than the safety of British citizens. And at home, it meant the erosion of civil liberties of all and the targeting of Muslims in particular, with policies like the Prevent programme, which countless studies and human rights groups have demonstrated discriminates against Muslims. From young girls being referred to the programme simply for choosing to wear a hijab, to a Muslim teen being questioned by anti-terrorism officers for wearing a Free Palestine badge. I knew about this at university, so I too feared about speaking out in class, holding back where I might have otherwise criticised Blair and Bush for illegal wars. Growing up, I might have hoped that things would have been better, but if anything, it's got worse. Today, our Prime Minister mocks Muslims as letterboxes and bank robbers, and far from scrapping Prevent, earlier this year, his government announced who would lead a review of the programme. William Shawcross, a man who once said, and I quote, "Europe and Islam is one of the greatest, most terrifying problems of our future." An appointment that led dozens of human rights organisations, including the likes of Amnesty International and Liberty, to boycott the review, saying it was just there to rubber stamp the discriminatory programme. And closer to home, things aren't good either. My party has seemingly welcomed back a man who said Muslims see the world differently to us, that we are a nation within a nation. It has been silent after a Muslim colleague was cleared of vexatious claims and endured 18 months of horrendous Islamophobia. And in a recent by-election, it supposedly had a senior source pit Muslims against Jews, demonising whole communities. Madam Chair, I've always known what it's like to face racism, and through my political life, I've come to better understand this bigotry, to see it in its different forms, and to recognise the need to confront and challenge it wherever it's found. Islamophobia is very real in Britain today. It's something I know too well, but it can't be defeated in isolation. The people who are spreading this hate don't just target Muslims, they target black people, they target Jewish people, they target Gypsy, Roma and traveller communities, they target migrants and refugees. There is safety in solidarity, and it is only through uniting our struggles that we will defeat racism. Thank you.